Hello, everyone. I am Matt Williamson at Williamson NFL, and I can't help myself. We have to talk Super Bowl. I am recording this Monday morning, day after, and I'm going to put a very Steelers spin on it. And let me get this out of the way because I don't need every comment from you guys being, Williamson, you're out of your mind. The Steelers are nothing like the Eagles. They're not one off season away. As long as Tomlin's here and this coaching staff, they'll never compete. All those things. Doesn't matter. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying the games are still won at the line of scrimmage. And please don't forget that Andy Weidel, who came from the Eagles organization, has been a part of 2 off seasons now, 2 draft classes. And with their first and second round picks in those classes, they drafted 3 offensive linemen and a corner who's similar to Quinyon Mitchell, So, again, I'm not saying, just squint a little bit and the Steelers can do exactly what the Eagles did. That's not my point here at all. But I do want to talk about a lot of aspects where you don't have to squint very hard to at least understand how you can beat Mahomes and Allen and Lamar and Burrow. And because Steelers aren't going to have that guy. I mean, they're just not. We know that. You have to win in the lines of scrimmage. Now, let's do a little Eagles history lesson. 2023 season. Eagles are 10-1. Number 1, number 2, and every power rank at that point in the season. After that, they were worse than the Steelers' collapse this past year. Totally fell apart to finish out the 2023 season. Go to Tampa in the first round of the playoffs. Get embarrassed. This sounds familiar, right? Steelers were really strong and then the end of the season collapsed. Now, their head coach's seat became very hot, which is now ice cold, of course. And the Eagles go out and hire 2 new coordinators. Steelers didn't do any of those things, obviously. And they had a very good offseason, including adding Saquon Barkley and hitting on basically everything that they touched that offseason. And now we saw the results. Okay. That's right. But again, I'm not saying it's apples to apples, but you don't have to squint that hard to see some similarities. And that starts with me with the offense and defensive lines. Now, what the Steelers don't have, at least I don't think so, but they did at one point, is a Munchak Stoutland offensive line coach, where you take Jordan Mailata in the 7th round, who wasn't even a football player, and turn him into a truly elite left tackle. Even Kelsey, who's gone, was not an early pick. I mean, I probably could coach Lane Johnson to the Pro Bowl, but Dickerson's like their only other high pick. Becton was a washout, and so now the Steelers are having high picks. And I don't know if Pat Meyer's a good coach or a bad coach. Everyone seems to think he's a terrible coach, but I also know that you have to be inside the walls to know that. But the Stoutland Munchak is almost like having Burrow or Allen to me. That is huge. So that being said, can they develop this offensive line with Fatanu and all these guys? I don't think that's crazy. Now, what you might think is crazy is I think the Steelers' defensive front's as good as the Eagles. It's a really good Eagle front, don't get me wrong, but I think the Steelers is on par, especially if you can add a nose, which they will, and they're going to continue to dig into the defensive line. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But again, win at the line of scrimmage. And I think the Steelers aren't far off from being able to do that with regularity. Now, there's more to it. I'd like to have A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the best roster in the league. But start at the line of scrimmage and create an unbelievable defense. And we'll get to that in a minute too here. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number 1 source for online betting. From the earliest odds, in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action, the ability to watch the games as they happen, with the largest selection of odds from everything from NBA and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA. Head to BetOnline today to get on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. Now, just some notes from that game that obviously apply to all teams or teams trying to beat Mahomes was I thought the Eagles, I mean, again, this is something everyone blames Tomlin for, which I get. I mean, I'm not even defending him here, is the Eagles played faster, especially when the Chiefs had the ball, but they played with more energy. They played with better, everything about it. Their read and react, their team speed. They had better players, but they also looked much better prepared for this game too. Andy Reid, we all love him. He's a great coach. He's going to the Hall of Fame. We know that. But all that pressure that was generated in Mahomes in this game, the Eagles didn't blitz one time. They brought 4 pass rushers every drop back. Every one. And I think the Eagles did the same thing to the Steelers, by the way. And they still couldn't block it up. It wasn't this unbelievable defensive Belichick game plan. It was just execution and talent. And I say that because the Steelers are pretty simplistic on offense too, or on defense, and they're based off talent more than they are scheme. And there's a lot of zone, and it's something I've been often talking about, the need for a man-to-man corner. Well, maybe just a good corner. Maybe just a great corner, even if he's a great zone guy. It doesn't have to be man-to-man. I'm starting to try and change my tune on that. Eagles are a heavy zone team. They just played extremely well. But back to Andy Reid. We'll all admit that Andy Reid's probably a better coach than Tomlin, right? But despite not being able to protect at all, on 81% of Mahomes' dropbacks, the Chiefs had 5 players in a route. So they didn't even keep a 6th guy in. They didn't bring in a blocking tight end and keep him in to block. They didn't keep P. Ryan in the backfield to block. 19% of the snaps, they had an extra blocker. One of them, I remember, they had Kelsey trying to block Sweat. Best of luck with that. So Hall of Fame coaches get out coached too. I mean, I'm just saying that. And that's not defense of Tomlin. I'm just saying that this is the best team we've seen for the better part of a decade. And if you can't protect the best player we've ever seen and don't win the coaching battles, you lose to great teams. So a couple of things that I thought was noteworthy here too were, and this applies to Brady, that the Super Bowls that Mahomes has lost now, he's lost 2, they couldn't block for him at all. At all. I mean, the Tampa one, remember, he's throwing passes when his body is parallel to the ground. He's getting the crap beat out of him. And I know Mahomes didn't play well last night, but he had no chance. I mean, he was under pressure from 4 rushers, not 5, like every snap. And the thing no one seems to be talking about is, okay, let's go back to Mahomes' Christmas Day here. Quick game was unbelievable. Ball was out of his hands in like 2.1, 2.2 seconds. Well, that was their plan in this game. No question. They were not going to run the ball into the teeth of the Eagles defense. It was going to be quick game, quick game, quick game. But in order to win quick game, your receivers need to get open quick. And their receivers looked really sluggish. I thought Kelsey looked really awkward at times and old and sluggish and maybe too much fun in Bourbon Street this week. I don't know. Hopkins, the most sure-handed guy in the world, drops an easy pass. I mean, I'm sitting there thinking, boy, they miss Rashee Rice. I mean, a guy that can get open quick. And therefore, Mahomes is patting the football and looking awkward, and his feet are all out of sync, and sack, throwaway, hit, boom. We saw all that. And why I mentioned Brady too is the Super Bowls he lost. Sure, Eli Manning played really well and blah, blah, blah. But they couldn't block Strahan and Tuck in that NASCAR package. Same type of thing. Like, if the Steelers aren't going to have a great quarterback, you have to be able to make the great quarterbacks you play extremely uncomfortable. And again, they're not Saquon Barkley away from being the Eagles. I know that. But they're not far at all, in my opinion, from being able to do that to opposing quarterbacks and play incredible defense. So those were my Steeler takeaways through the Super Bowl lens. And please, I don't need every comment saying you're crazy. The Steelers are 5 years away. I don't know how far away they are. They may never get there again. Or, as long as Tomlin's here, it doesn't matter, blah, 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 blah. Well, they are going to attack the offseason. And I think the way to do it is watch this game over and over. And hopefully your offensive line develops as you've drafted it. And hopefully your defense, which I don't think is far away, can be as nasty as Philly's. I really don't think that's a reach at all, that part. Now, the Eagle way of doing things, and I think they actually have a saying inside their walls, is if we're great in the trenches, everything else will fall into place. And that's true. Barkley wasn't that good with the Giants. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are awesome. But if they can't protect, they're not. So the other stuff does seem to fall into place. And I want to give Hurts credit too. He's gotten better. I've been not much of a believer, but he was very decisive. He played really fast last night. If it wasn't there, he was immediate to take off and did a lot of damage with his legs. And I hope we don't think, well, the Steelers could do that. Justin Fields could do that exact same thing, cut and paste. No. But and I'm not even advocating that it should be Fields versus Wilson or whatever. If you were to bring back Fields and run the Eagles offense, not as well, probably. I'm sure not as well. But step one of the Eagles offense and run the ball a ton and develop your O-line, it could happen. You know what I mean? I'm just saying that style makes some sense. If you can play an unbelievable brand of defense and terrorize quarterbacks, which I don't think they're that far off, and improve on offense. Let's just say that. You could at least start making steps in an Eagles-like fashion. The Michelob Ultra version, don't get me wrong, it's going to be as good for a while. But again, just look at how they beat the Chiefs and take away that from a Steeler perspective as a positive. Part of me has thought, well, if you don't have Josh Allen, you're never going to win. Well, Hurts is good, but he's not Josh Allen, he's not Burrow, he's not Lamar, he's not Mahomes. And none of those four quarterbacks won the Super Bowl this year. So, there you go. All right, guys, appreciate it. It is officially off season. We will dig in. I'll be back at you tomorrow. See ya.